Have you ever felt it? That strange emptiness inside, even when your life looks full on the outside? The job, the friends, the achievements, they're all there. And yet, something is missing. Carl Jung believed this hollowness is not weakness. It's a message, a signal from the depths of your psyche, a clue that the life you're showing to the world, the mask, the persona, is not the same as the life you're living within. In this journey, we'll uncover why success, pleasure, even love can still leave you feeling hollow. And more importantly, how Jung believed you can begin to fill that emptiness, not with noise, but with meaning. If you're fascinated by psychology, philosophy, and the hidden forces that shape your mind, subscribe now, and let's go deeper. You wake up in the morning, the alarm rings, the calendar is full. Your phone hums with reminders of meetings, tasks, celebrations. On the surface, life is complete. You have a job. You have relationships. You may even have achievements others admire. From the outside, it looks like you are living the dream. And yet, if you pause, really pause, you feel it. That quiet, almost imperceptible hollow. A restlessness you cannot quite explain. Carl Jung saw this paradox everywhere. He believed the modern individual, surrounded by abundance, often feels more empty than ever. Why? Because the outer life, the one people see, the one carefully arranged with roles and routines, is not always aligned with the inner life. Jung called this the split between the persona and the self. The persona is the mask, the face you wear at work, in public, even among friends. It is the version of you designed to function, to be accepted, to win approval. But beneath the mask lies the self, the raw, unfiltered you, carrying your deepest fears, desires, and truths. And when the mask grows too heavy, when the distance between who you appear to be and who you truly are becomes too wide, emptiness creeps in. It is the psyche's warning sign. You are living on the surface, while your depths remain untouched. Think about it. A man earns prestige in his career, respected by peers, envied by neighbors. Yet at night, he lies awake, staring at the ceiling, consumed by a whisper. Is this really it? A woman builds a family, cherished and admired for her devotion. And still, she feels unseen, because the version of herself she shows to others is only part of her truth. This is the paradox. A life that looks full but feels hollow. Jung insisted that this hollowness is not trivial. It is not weakness. It is a profound message, because human beings are not built to be satisfied with surface victories alone. We crave wholeness, not just success. We long for meaning, not just milestones. And the emptiness we feel even in the midst of plenty is the first clue that the soul is hungry. The persona trap. Carl Jung once described the persona as that which in reality one is not, but which oneself as well as others think one is. It is the mask, the costume, the carefully constructed identity we present to the world. And in many ways, the persona is necessary. Without it, society would collapse into chaos. We cannot show our raw, unfiltered selves at every moment. At work, we must be professional. In public, we must be civil. In relationships, we adapt, compromise, play roles. The persona is useful. It protects us. It allows us to function. But here is the danger. When you become nothing but the mask. Imagine an actor who has played the same role for so long that he forgets his real name. He becomes the character, unable to distinguish between the stage and his true identity. This is what happens when the persona takes over. You become the doctor, but forget the human being beneath the title. You become the parent, but forget the dreamer within. You become the achiever, but forget the seeker of meaning. The world claps for the role. The audience applauds the mask. But deep inside, your soul starves. And this starvation often manifests as emptiness, because the persona can earn applause, but it cannot provide nourishment. Jung believed that many modern individuals were over-identified with their personas. They lived so fully in their roles, career, status, reputation that they lost touch with their inner selves. And the wider the gap between the mask and the soul, the deeper the feeling of hollowness. Consider the high-powered executive, admired for leadership, wealth, influence. To the world, she is unstoppable. Yet privately, she confesses to feeling like a ghost in her own life. The mask has grown so heavy, she no longer remembers what it's like to feel alive. Or the man who is the pillar of his community, respected, stable, predictable. He has mastered the persona so well that no one notices his despair. But when he's alone, he stares into silence, wondering if anyone would recognize the real him if he dared to remove the mask. This is the trap. The more successful the persona becomes, the harder it is to let it go, because society rewards the mask. And if you remove it, you risk rejection. But Jung warned, a life lived only through the persona is a half-life. It may appear full, but it is built on illusion. The emptiness is the cost of forgetting yourself. So when you feel hollow despite your achievements, Jung would ask, is it possible you are starving beneath the mask you wear? The shadow within. If the persona is the mask we wear, the shadow is everything that hides behind it. Carl Jung described the shadow as the unknown, repressed side of the personality, the parts of ourselves we deny, bury, or refuse to acknowledge. Not because they disappear, but because they make us uncomfortable. We exile them. We pretend they don't exist. But the shadow waits. And here lies a profound truth. The emptiness you feel is often the echo of a shadow you've ignored for too long. Think of the traits you dislike in others. Their arrogance, their selfishness, their cowardice. Jung would suggest that what repulses us most is often a mirror, a reflection of qualities we've disowned in ourselves. But the shadow is not only dark impulses, it can also be lost potential. The talents you suppressed because they didn't fit your role. The passions you buried because they weren't practical. The voice you silenced because it was too risky. Each time you disown a part of yourself, you create a fracture. And each fracture deepens the hollow. Picture this. A man prides himself on being logical, rational, controlled. He has built a persona of stability. But beneath the surface, he has disowned his emotional side, his capacity to cry, to grieve, to love deeply. And so, he feels numb, empty, not because he lacks, but because he has amputated half his soul. Or imagine a woman who has become the perfect caretaker, always kind, always selfless, always available. Society praises her, but in secret, she resents the role because she has repressed her desire for freedom, ambition, even selfishness. Her shadow cries out, but she cannot listen, and so the emptiness grows. Jung believed the shadow was not a curse, but a key. To deny it is to remain divided. To confront it is to move toward wholeness. But confronting the shadow is terrifying, because it means admitting that we are not only the masks we present, we are also anger, envy, lust, cowardice, pride. We are both the hero and the monster. This is why so many choose the illusion of fullness, the mask, the applause, the routine over the difficult journey of integration. It feels safer to live as half a self than to face the truth of who we are. But Jung warned, the price of avoidance is emptiness. The hollowness is the shadow knocking, demanding to be seen. And until you turn toward it, no amount of achievement, pleasure, or praise will silence the call. Emptiness is not the absence of life. It is the refusal of life. It is what happens when we bury too much of ourselves underground. The question then is not whether you have a shadow. Jung believed everyone does. The question is, will you have the courage to meet it? The soul's longing. If the persona is the mask, and the shadow is what hides beneath it, then what lies beyond both? For Jung, it was the self. Not the ego, not the mask, not the fragments we present to others, but the deeper, unified whole of who we are. And it is this self that hungers when life feels empty. Jung observed that modern people chase many substitutes for meaning: wealth, reputation, relationships, achievements. These are not wrong in themselves. They can provide comfort, stability, even joy. But they are not enough to satisfy the soul's deeper longing. Because the soul does not crave comfort. It craves wholeness. And this longing for wholeness often appears first as emptiness. That hollow ache inside is not the absence of life, it is the hunger for a fuller life. Think of it this way. A person who has everything, career, family, recognition, still feels something is missing. The emptiness grows louder with each milestone. Why? Because their outer success has outpaced their inner growth. Their ego has grown, but their self has been neglected. Jung insisted that without connection to the deeper self, all external gains eventually feel hollow. Consider the artist who stops creating because it doesn't pay. Years later, surrounded by success in another field, she feels a gnawing void. She tells herself she should be happy, but her self has been silenced, and no promotion or paycheck can fill the silence. Or the man who builds wealth but abandons his spiritual hunger. Surrounded by possessions, he feels poorer than ever, because the soul's longing cannot be purchased, only discovered. For Jung, this was not abstract philosophy. It was clinical observation. He found again and again that people in despair were not always suffering from a lack of things, but from a lack of meaning. And meaning, Jung said, is found not in the persona or the ego, but in the journey toward the self. This is why emptiness is not simply a problem to be fixed, but a message to be listened to. It is the psyche saying, there is more to you than the life you are living. But here's the paradox. Most people resist this call. They fear the silence, so they drown it out with distractions, workaholism, endless scrolling, compulsive consumption. They treat emptiness as an enemy to escape, rather than a guide to follow. Yet Jung would argue, the emptiness is the doorway. The very thing you are running from is the thing you most need to face. Because the soul is not asking for more possessions or applause. It is asking for depth. It is asking for integration. It is asking for you. And until you answer, the hollow will remain. How do you know if what you're feeling is truly the soul's hunger? How do you distinguish between ordinary dissatisfaction and the deeper emptiness Jung spoke of? There are signs. They don't appear on medical charts, but they whisper in the rhythms of your daily life. 1. The mask feels heavy. You move through conversations, meetings, and social gatherings, wearing a smile, playing your role, the successful one, the reliable one, the one who has it all together. On the surface, no one suspects a thing. Yet when you return home, the silence feels unbearable. It's as if the mask you wore all day has fused to your face, and removing it leaves you exhausted. This is the weight of the persona. When the outer role no longer matches the inner truth, the gap creates fatigue not of the body, but of the soul. 2. Achievements bring no lasting joy. You hit the milestone, the promotion, the degree, the recognition, and for a moment there's celebration. But within days, sometimes hours, the joy dissolves into a gnawing question. Is this all there is? Jung believed this endless dissatisfaction is a symptom of pursuing goals defined by the persona or society, rather than the self. The ego can be fed by applause, but the soul cannot. 3. Restlessness without cause. There are moments when you should feel content. You're safe, you're stable, you have enough. Yet beneath it all, there's an itch, a restless unease, a constant need to move, scroll, shop, achieve. You chase stimulation not because you want more, but because you cannot sit still with yourself. This is the psyche's way of signaling that something deeper needs attention. Restlessness without cause is often emptiness without recognition. 4. Relationships feel shallow. Even surrounded by people, you feel alone. Conversations skim the surface, and connections lack depth. You play your part polite, agreeable, entertaining, but inside you're starving for something real. A dialogue not just between personas, but between souls. When we live only through the persona, relationships remain masks, talking to masks. True intimacy requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires a self willing to step forward. 5. The echo of childhood dreams. Sometimes, in quiet moments, you hear it, the faint memory of a younger self, the child who loved to paint, to explore, to imagine, the teenager who dreamed of adventure, purpose, or artistry. But now those voices feel distant, almost like a stranger's. And yet they stir something in you, a pang of loss, a whisper that says, "You abandoned me." Jung would argue that emptiness often emerges when we neglect the parts of ourselves that once felt most alive. The soul remembers what the ego forgets. If you recognize yourself in these signs, you're not broken. You're not failing at life. You are simply hearing the quiet call of the self, trying to get your attention. But here is the danger. Many people ignore these signals. They drown them in distractions. Or worse, they misinterpret them as proof they are ungrateful, weak, or flawed. In reality, these feelings are not signs of weakness, they are invitations. Invitations to go deeper. Invitations to remove the mask. Invitations to begin the journey Jung called individuation, the process of becoming whole. Emptiness, Jung taught, is not the end of the story. It is the beginning. To feel empty is not to be broken. It is to be called, and the call is simple, though never easy. Become whole. But what does that mean? How does one walk from hollowness into wholeness? From a life of masks into a life of meaning? Jung did not offer quick fixes. He did not promise instant happiness. What he offered instead was a path, a lifelong journey into the depths of your own psyche. A journey of individuation. 1. Facing the shadow. The first step is the hardest. To turn toward what you've been avoiding. The shadow, all those suppressed desires, fears, wounds, and hidden strengths, does not disappear when ignored. It festers. It leaks into your life through projection, envy, resentment, and compulsions. To move toward wholeness, you must face it. Ask yourself, what do I dislike most in others? The answer often reveals what you have not yet accepted in yourself. The task is not to eliminate the shadow, but to integrate it, to say, yes, this too is me. Only then do you recover the parts of yourself you have long abandoned. 2. Listening to dreams. Jung saw dreams as messages from the unconscious, letters written by the self to the waking ego. While modern life dismisses dreams as random, Jung insisted they are map symbols, pointing toward what your conscious mind has ignored. The emptiness you feel in waking life may be filled with symbols at night. The house with locked rooms, the ocean you fear to enter, the stranger who guides you. To record and reflect on dreams is to allow the deeper self to speak. And often, within these cryptic images, lies the very key to your emptiness. 3. Reconnecting with meaning. Emptiness thrives in a life without meaning. And meaning, Jung argued, is not given, it is created. It may come through art, through service, through spirituality, through the pursuit of knowledge. But whatever its form, it must be personal, not borrowed. The soul does not awaken for society's checklist. It awakens when you step into what feels authentically yours. Ask yourself, what did I love before the world told me who I should be? The answer may not bring instant success, but it will bring direction. And with direction, emptiness begins to fade. 4. Balancing the anima and animus. Within each of us lives both the feminine and masculine principle, intuition and logic, receptivity and assertiveness, creativity and discipline. When one side is denied, imbalance follows. The man who rejects his sensitivity lives half a life. The woman who rejects her assertiveness lives half a life. To become whole, Jung taught, is to integrate both, to allow the fullness of human potential to live within you. When balance is restored, the inner emptiness quiets. 5. Surrendering to the process. Perhaps the most difficult step of all. Patience. Wholeness is not achieved in weeks or months. It is not a checklist to complete. It is a lifelong unfolding. Jung compared individuation to alchemy, a slow transformation of the base metal of the personality into the gold of the self. The emptiness you feel today may return tomorrow, but each time you face it, you grow stronger, more authentic, more whole. The key is not to fight the emptiness, but to listen to it. To treat it not as an enemy, but as a teacher. Here is Jung's radical truth. You will never fill the emptiness with more things, more applause, more achievements, because the emptiness was never asking for those. It was asking for you. Not the mask, not the persona, not the role you play, but the self you have always been, waiting to be remembered. The journey is not about becoming someone new. It is about becoming whole. And in that wholeness, the emptiness is no longer a void. but a space filled with meaning. So the next time you feel the hollow ache of emptiness, do not fear it. Do not numb it. Pause. Listen. Ask what it is trying to tell you. Because in that silence, you may hear the voice of the self. And in that voice, you may finally discover what it means to live not half a life, but a whole